Welcome back to Cocktails and Classics. This week we watched Blade Runner, The Final Cut. Joining me this week are Ben, Cameron, Zach, and Carlos. And to start this thing off, I'm going to pass it over to Carlos. He's going to give us our drink for this week.
Thanks everyone for tuning in again for another week. This episode we are taking a look at the Soaked in Blue cocktail. And here's what you're going to need for this drink. You're going to need 3 ounces of gin, 1 ounce of blue curacao, 1 ounce of fresh lime juice, 1 dash of orange bitters, and a dash of Angostura bitters. I thought this cocktail was pretty tasty, a little zingy, but boys, what'd you think?
Not really a fan, to be honest. As I get further into the cocktail, there's more citrus, but the first couple sips, I just was kind of like, it didn't really taste like much. I don't know.
I mean, there's certain cocktails like with gin that I definitely really like. This actually was surprising. Was one of them. I was worried because of the blue curacao, but actually wasn't bad.
I actually like this one a bit. Yeah, like you said, it is very gin heavy. It's got 3 parts gin to like 2 parts anything else. So this is actually pretty close to like, this is actually, in my opinion, just a slightly better martini, I guess. But yeah, I think it's pretty good. It's got, it's definitely like front heavy dry. But then once you like sip it and put it back, I think you definitely get more of the like citrusy, the lime and the bitters and stuff like that.
I wish I tasted more of the gin. I feel like it's there a little bit, but
You think
I feel
so?
like other drinks I've had has accentuated the.
I don't really
the
like gin
a
that
little bit
much. Well, maybe I do, and I just haven't had it in the right cocktail. Although I will say I'm not doing London dry gin. I'm actually using American gin, so it is slightly different there.
I'm using a Beefeater, which is what
They recommended, yeah.
the guy recommended. But
Got that Tanqueray.
oh, it's fancy over here, Mr. Tanqueray.
So, listeners, if you decide to make yourself a soaked in blue cocktail, go ahead and send us a picture on Instagram at Cocktails and Classics Pod and use hashtag Cocktails and Classics. Or if Twitter is your thing, tweet us at Cocktails Class. We would love to see how your soaked in blue cocktail came out and what you thought of it. If you're interested in making this drink, be sure to check out the show notes below for the recipe. And if you haven't seen the movie Blade Runner, sit back, sip on this week's cocktail, the Soaked in Blue, and enjoy the show. There will be spoilers from here on out, so heads up. Otherwise, continue on for our post-movie discussion.
This week we watched Blade Runner: The Final Cut, directed by Ridley Scott, based off the novel Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. Music by Vangelis, cinematography by Jordan Cronenworth. Harrison Ford stars, Rutger Hauer, Sean Young, Emmett Walsh, who I never realized was in this movie. Brief plot summary is, in the 21st century, a corporation develops androids to be used as slaves in colonies outside of the Earth. Identified as replicants, in 2019, a former police officer is hired to hunt down a fugitive group of replicants living undercover in Los Angeles. This movie was nominated for 2 Oscars, Best Art Direction, Set Direction, and Best Effects, Visual Effects. Currently sits at an 8.1 out of 10 on IMDB, and it is number 169 on the top 250 on IMDB. Cameron, do you think Deckard is a replicant?
No.
Why?
I don't know. I think so. I should say, for starters, I think this is one of those movies that I would benefit.
That's not the question I asked.
I don't care because this is it relates. So, no, I think this is one of those movies that after this discussion, at some point, I'm gonna have to go back and watch it because I just don't think I got it. I don't think I understood the movie because, like, to me,
Just don't get it, dude.
I just didn't see any.
Just don't get it.
I didn't see any indications that he was a replicant throughout the movie, but I'm sure they were there. I just probably didn't notice it or pay attention just because I was trying to figure out the plot more so than like the little hints and clues that might have been left that show that he might be a replicant. But I don't know. That wasn't my takeaway from it.
So, if you want a little hintaroo here, all right.
Yeah.
So, at one part, Deckard is sleeping. This is like the big giveaway one. Is Deckard is sleeping and he dreams of unicorn running through the woods, and then at the end, the Gaff, I believe is his name, the other cop leaves that little origami unicorn on the grounds, and it's kind of like, oh, because all of Rachel's memories are implanted,
Right.
so like they know the plot line to them, and it's like kind of insinuating that like, oh, they know that like he has these dreams and memories of like unicorns and
Right.
other things. The other one is like, I believe when he's at Tyrell, Tyrell asks him, or Rachel one asks him, has he ever taken the test
Rachel asks him. Yeah.
himself? And it's kind of the theme of the movie almost is kind of semi like free will. Like he has this mission to like go do this thing, and that's like literally what replicants are, is that they're set to do this one mission, and like once he does his thing and he takes care of these replicants, he's done, you know.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I mean, there is a second movie, right? And he's in that one. And replicants only have a shelf life of 4 years, right? Like they only last 4 years, I think.
Yeah. Well, but if he's a new model,
I guess. Do they address that in the new movie?
it is. I mean, I don't want to spoil it for you. Maybe we watch it on another one, or maybe you watch it on your own. But yeah, I won't spoil anything for the new movie.
Okay.
Just
But-
because there's more to it.
Gotcha. So yeah, I didn't come away from the movie thinking he was, but I mean, what you're saying also makes sense. Like those clues are interesting, but again, like those are just things I didn't pick up on.
Oh, so Ridley Scott in an interview
Sir
back in
Ridley Scott, I
sorry,
believe?
Sir
Yes,
Ridley
sir.
Scott. Sir Ridley Scott said in 2007 that Deckard was 100% a replicant. However, Harrison Ford said, "No way, Jose." So
Interesting.
take that for what you will. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't.
I'm actually surprised that Harrison Ford had a strong stance on any character, because I feel like every interview I've ever seen with him, people ask him questions. He's like, I don't give a fuck. I'm just
Dude's
in it
so
for the money.
nonchalant. He does not care.
Right.
At
He's like,
least it seems that way.
Like
I'm just here to crash planes and survive.
Like he always gets the question. No, he always gets the questions of like,
Badass.
I don't know, but I mean, I feel like secretly
know if I could
Harrison
do that.
Ford is pretty deep. My brother actually ran into him at the Art Institute in Chicago, and he was just kind of standing in front of this painting, just kind of mesmerized by the thing. And I was like, well, I'm like, did you go up and like say hi? He was like, no. He kind of just seemed like really deep in thought about the
it
painting.
was definitely not Harrison.
He was
First-hand
lost.
account.
And he was
We had a-
lost and he didn't know how to ask for help. Your brother just left him stranded.
And then everybody stood up and clapped. That painting's name, Albert Einstein.
Yeah, I never
That
know.
was last year, I think, when you ran into him. Yeah, it was. Yeah, so I guess that's
you
where
can't-
he was
you
hiding
can't
for
say he
Blade
ran-
2049.
You can't say he ran into him. It's where he saw him at a museum. You could say he ran into him if he like went up and talked to him, but don't be like, "Oh, I ran into Harrison Ford the other day." Oh, nice.
We shot the shit, you know.
You just saw
By
some
that
old
I
white
mean-
guy standing looking at a painting. It wasn't even Harrison Ford.
I asked him who shot first, and he said to go fuck myself. You know, those sorts of things.
It's really weird. He was like,
So,
me
you know,
if you don't run.
Classic Harrison Ford.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is he's been asked many times for Star Wars, like who shot first, and he's like, I don't care. He just tells them he doesn't care.
Yeah, I don't know
but
if he's
maybe
super
he-
deep.
maybe
really-
other movies he cares
yeah.
about more.
He's really got a way of sometimes rationally detaching from his characters.
Or like people ask him why he did his most recent movie, which is the dog one, where he like
Call of the
would
Wild.
pet the human as if it was a dog. And he's just like, Money.
That movie looks so bad.
They're like, why'd you do this movie? Money.
He's Mr. Krabs, essentially.
Hey,
I like
at least-
money.
You know what? At least he's honest about it, and he's not one of those people that's like, "Why'd you do this shitty movie? Man, it had a great script. I just thought it was going to be much better than it was." He's just straight up like, "Why'd you do this? I got paid. The fuck do
No,
you mean?"
I respect it. I respect it for sure.
Props.
I definitely like that he's straightforward and he's like, I do this for money.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
like,
you guys
I
keep
mean,
paying me to do this
it's-
stuff. I keep doing it.
Why do you guys
The
do
dude
the-
was a fucking money machine in the like 70s and 80s.
Oh.
He was in like Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Blade Runner. Like,
But,
come on.
But all of those, he's probably like, oh, it's 5 o'clock. I'm going home.
Let's be honest. Star Wars Episode 7, he kind of phones it in.
I don't think that's true. I don't know. I mean,
He
he
doesn't have
wanted
much
to
to do.
die. This is way divergent, but he wanted Han to die in 5. He tried to convince George Lucas to kill him off in Episode 5.
Please,
and he
please,
didn't do it.
George. Please. There's another opportunity. They're paying a lot more money. George, please.
I feel like it was more so it makes more sense for the character to die here, but he
George,
probably also maybe want to do something else.
I've got
I
a
don't know.
giant movie contract with Paramount on the table. I really need you to kill me off in this one.
How about no?
I could. I
No,
could
no,
just
no,
see him
Harrison.
just like dead.
You got to come back for episode 7. I can't kill you off. Episode 7?
We're making more of these things.
We're not even on 3 yet. No. This is 6.
They should have just done the solo movie, but had Harrison Ford do it
Oh,
as an old man and just play it off like he's
like he's
Yeah.
like
young.
he's like he's in his 20s.
Like his hair is clearly like spray painted brown. Like,
No, they got to do a CGI like the Irishman, you know?
Ugh.
oh no.
Cameron, you don't think Deckard is a replicant, but what were your initial thoughts on Blade Runner?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, I feel like I just didn't get it. I don't know. It was a fine movie, and it was shot really well, but it was pretty slow. And like I said, I just don't think I understood the plot, like the depth of it. And it's definitely a movie that I would want to come back and watch after this discussion, because like it wasn't bad. It was just like without more information on like kind of what to look for, I don't think I'd like watch it again.
I'm enjoying this because I told your wife that you would hate this movie. So.
No, I didn't hate it.
He
I just
did in
I
fact
guess,
say that exact thing. He's gonna hate this movie.
yeah. I didn't hate it. I just like I said, I just didn't understand it. Maybe. I don't know. I'm willing to at least give it that. I just don't think I got it.
So I'm just gonna come out and say I fucking love this movie. We're just gonna get that out of the way because I'm gonna fucking gush over it. All right.
What ass
I mean,
gush.
it just combines everything I freaking love, though. Like, I love noir films. I love like hard sci-fi. I love the cinematography. I love the synth score. You put it all into one nice, neat package for me, and mailed it to me. And
Dylan will take that package
yeah.
all night long.
There were
so tasty.
See, I like the score too, but there were times where it just felt like too much. Like when he's initially interviewing Rachel and they're at that table,
Yeah.
and it's like, I don't know if I need this right now.
It
Yeah.
feels like there's so much more to that scene too. I mean, maybe it's the final cut, but it's like he's like asking a question and then changes the question, or it kind of cuts to the end of it, and it seems like all this time's passed. And they're like, "Ooh, he's asked 100 questions." I was like,
Yeah.
yes, like 3."
Yeah, it didn't.
I know.
It didn't seem
would,
like a lot.
It would like fade out and fade back in, and he was just finishing the same question, but it made it seem like there was supposed to be a giant time jump. Okay, I'm glad to know I wasn't the only person that was taken aback by that.
You know, for an era that loved montages, that scene really could have used a montage.
We need a montage.
montage.
He's like sweating. It's like Airplane when he's like sitting in the cockpit.
It's just gushing water.
Just wanted to let you know we're all counting on you.
I had not seen this movie.
Okay.
What were your initial thoughts?
I found it very much like you. I'm a huge fan of like a noir-y type film. I'm not huge into sci-fi, but I do enjoy sci-fi. Like like Zach said, the synth score sometimes got a little much for me, but overall, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I liked the plot line. I'd read the book in college, so I kind of knew what was going on. I knew what to expect. But to see it visually, I was just kind of shocked that I hadn't seen even like really clips or anything of it that gave me an idea of what I was expecting walking into it.
The book differs a bit from the movie, correct?
Yeah. Yes, it does. Deckard does kind of the same thing where he interviews like Rachel in that, but in the end, like, spoiler for a book that's been out for Lord knows how many since 1968. If you haven't read it, I don't really care anymore. But
You're
like,
out of spoiler territory.
yeah, I think I'm safe. But in the end of the book, like, so Deckard is married. I think his wife is still around. He buys her like this goat, which is the whole thing of sheep. And in the end, Rachel kills like his pet goat, and then his wife's like super brokenhearted, and then she just disappeared. It's like, oh, okay. It's just, I don't know. It's weird. I think it's like a big difference too is like the fact that in the movie, like Deckard stops and is, basically keeps trying to coax Rachel to be with him, right? That's
in the movie.
Yeah. In the book, it's the opposite. She reluctantly agrees to meet with him, but then she keeps like coaxing him into like, sleeping with her. And then she basically comes out and says that most of the bounty hunters that come after her, she sleeps with to try to get them to not kill her.
As one does.
Which, is subsequently what he does and then leaves, which is great. He just cheats on his wife and just heads back, whatever.
I will say one interesting thing I read. So Cam had brought this up to me, and I had never really noticed it, but it is kind of a detractor for me from the film a little bit, is the scene with Rachel and Deckard, where
God,
Deckard
I hated that scene.
It's kind of uncomfortable. I mean, it's gonna be wishy-washy because it is like sci-fi and it's maybe man and robot kind of thing, and she is very like android humanoid. In an article reading about that scene, which is kind of rapey, very uncomfortable, which I mean may trigger people. It is kind of like abusive.
It was uncomfortable for me watching it, and I was like, oh my God, this is so like I felt dirty watching it because it was just, I don't know.
But the article I read was talking about how Deckard is actually the villain of the film.
Interesting.
And that Roy is the hero.
Oh, I like that.
I can sympathize with that. I can sympathize with Roy. I mean, he definitely murders people, but he just wants to live, right? And like he also wants that one girl that he's with to live.
Pris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he just
that's
wants
the
a
thing,
cure,
is that
kind of a cure, if you will, for their like terminal illness.
Yeah, like Roy has this family that he's like built. He has people who like enjoy his company and his presence.
Yeah.
Their mission is literally just to like extend life. Like, sure, they're also killing people, but like they just want to extend their life. And then you have Deckard, who is like the loner. He's like grumpy at the world, and he's chasing them down to like basically murder them one by one. And he's not a good guy necessarily.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Somebody should make a movie that is just Blade Runner, but from the other perspective, where Roy is leading like this revolution, this breaking out of the shackles of slavery, and trying to fight for that cure. That would be a good movie.
So Blade Runner.
But the other way around, like maybe if you watch it backwards.
No, I think if there's just there's a slight tonality difference if you frame. I think if you remade this movie and intentionally framed the replicants as the good guys, I think it would also still work. And you framed because like the movie kind of it does frame Harrison Ford's character Deckard as a good guy. Like that's how the movie's set up. And you can draw your own conclusions, like that might not be the case, but I think you could make this movie the other way around and think that the replicants are the side you want to be rooting for.
I do think that is like a theme of the noir genre, though, is that you don't always necessarily side with the main character or like the good guy necessarily, because they do stuff that is a little shady, or they don't really have the best morals. Their moral compass is a little off.
Yeah, that is really kind of a huge feature in most noir movies, is you walk away rooting for the main character, but you also walk away feeling like the main character is a total sleazeball.
Do the means justify the end?
Did anyone have any memorable scenes?
I think the interrogation scene at the beginning with which one of the replicants is that? Leon.
Leon and Holden.
Yeah, that's a pretty good intro to the movie. I like that a lot. And then you get the second perspective of Deckard analyzing the film a couple times. I like that scene. I thought that was pretty good.
Well, I like the whole intro. I think it does a decent job at like world building. And in my sense, like I hate
that's what I was gonna say.
I hate books and like movies that kind of like sit there and it's like, well, this is blah blah blah, and you like don't understand anything of what's going on. But this movie, I feel like kind of like gave you what you needed to know. Here you go. Here's an interview, and it just kind of jumps right into it. And I think it does just enough to set you up for what you're about to see.
Yeah, I think I was gonna say that too. Is I think one of the things that they do really well in this movie is world building. Like the aesthetic, the setting, are just all like great, and they have scenes that aren't necessarily like necessary, but they do kind of establish the world that you're in, if that makes sense. Or like little things here and there where they interact with like random one-off characters, which again kind of just like isn't necessary per se, but it does like help build the world that you're trying to, tell a story in.
Yeah, and I love all the like the Pan Am and like the Atari advertising.
Yeah, this game is a great ad for Cyberpunk 2077. If you want to play Blade Runner the video game, just wait a couple more months until it gets delayed again.
Any of the shots of like when he's like out in like the street or out in like the world, it for some reason it reminds me of like the cityscape where Ron Perlman is in Pacific Rim.
Oh yeah,
just like with all like the neon and stuff, like it just like it made me think of that. I love Pacific Rim, but I know Dylan's gonna probably hate me, but
it's almost like modern Tokyo in a sense.
Yeah,
like,
it's exactly
that like neon, super crowded streets.
It is 2019,
right? Like neon.
True.
Like,
this movie should be taking
it's
place.
It's got like a little bit
year.
of maybe like the Pacific Rim feel, and then also like a little bit of like the newer Total Recall kind of vibes.
Going off of, I like how we said introducing, I also just love the way we meet Deckard to begin with, where like he just like sits down at this, like he's sitting there talking to the guy, ordering his food, and the cops come up, they go to say something, and he's like, come on, like tell him they said you're a Blade Runner. Yeah, tell him I'm eating. Like, and then when he goes to get in the cop car, he's still eating the Chinese food as he gets in.
For me, I think one of the best scenes is like I guess you would call it battle, like the final chase climactic ending that we have with Roy and Deckard, and he's like chasing him on the like roofs and everything, and Roy gives us like his speech, and it's kind of sad, like the speech of like morality in a sense, like he reaches the end and he's like, I've seen these things, and all these moments are just going to be lost in time, like tears and rain, and just dies. It's kind of anticlimactic in a sense, but it's also just like, fuck, like that's going to be us one day.
Are you a robot? Are you dying in 4 years or less?
Is someone else going to have your memories, Cam?
I mean, not with that attitude.
I'm going to go out like Nixon, put my head in a jar, carry me around for a little bit, and I'll just chit-chat like that.
The cinematography of this movie is fantastic. the neo noir, like harsh lighting, super moody. The scene where they're interviewing Rachel, and they've got the like water reflections on the wall behind them. Doesn't make sense in reality at all, but just looks so freaking good. The scene where they kill Miss, is it Salome? I believe the
snake
one with
lady?
the snake.
Yeah.
Yeah, the snake lady, and she's like running through the like glass, and he like shoots her, and just, the score kicks in. Oh, it's tasty, so tasty.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for a painted backdrop. I really enjoy that. And then they blend it in with the rain. It looks really good in this movie.
Yeah. For an 80s movie, the backgrounds and everything look great. There were only some times where it was kind of like clear they either added CGI later or did some things where I was like, that doesn't look that great. But overall, it was really good.
Like at the very beginning with the
With
fire burn
and
off
stuff.
towers.
Yeah. I was like, ugh.
Looks like I made that in Sony Vegas.
I think they actually probably redid that one in the final cut or whatever in like 2007 too, which makes it a little worse.
I will say, two of my favorite movies, this and The Thing, both came out in the same year, and I feel like both look as good as the day I saw them. And maybe that's because they did all the work practically, and it just kind of like is timeless in a sense.
Yeah.
I feel like you watch stuff with CGI from the 90s, and it's kind of, you're like, oh.
Yeah, there was definitely, I mean, the good thing about those movies is that without the movies that did CGI really poorly, we wouldn't have the movies today that do CGI really well, because you have to have early adopters and investors in that technology for it to grow. But at the same time, there definitely is a period of time where they stopped using like practical effects and they started trying to use like, virtual effects, and the result was pretty bad for like 10 years, where it was like, that looks bad. But again, without those, we wouldn't have the movies we have today, which are which are a lot of CGI, but also look like fantastic.
So this week's podcast is brought to you by Surfside Sips. They make high-impact glass straws. They're a family-owned company, and what's better than saving the turds?
The turds.
The turds.
I'm one of those people who hates using paper straws. Paper straws fucking
Paper straws suck.
I
They're
love
the worst
what
solution.
they do. I love that we're minimizing the use of plastic straws. I enjoy that. Paper straws suck ass.
They suck. They're the worst possible solution because turns out, guess what? Paper and water don't fucking mix, okay? I don't know who came up with it, but it doesn't work. Even though they put coating on it to try and help, it doesn't work. It just gets soggy and you end up throwing it away anyway, and that's just more waste. And so,
But you know what doesn't get soggy? Glass.
yeah.
Glass straws from Surfside Sips. And if you want to get some glass straws from Surfside Sips, you can use coupon code cocktails and classics spelled out. That's cocktails and classics for 20% off your order.
And if you're looking for a business to support during this time, seems like a good idea. Today's episode is brought to you by Audible. Audible is the leading provider of spoken word entertainment and audiobooks, ranging from bestsellers to celebrity memoirs, news, business, and self-development. But essentially what it is every month you get 1 credit to pick any title, plus 2 Audible originals from their monthly selection. So, Dylan and Zach, what are your experiences with Audible?
So, working from home nowadays, I recently used Audible to rip through one of my favorite book series. It's always great to go back and revisit some of your favorites.
And since we've recently done From Russia with Love, you could check out some of Ian Fleming's books on Audible. They have Dan Stevens, Toby Stevens, Damian Lewis, many great narrators. Read through Diamonds Are Forever, From Russia with Love, Live and Let Die. So maybe you want to get into the James Bond novels as well as the movies.
To start your free 30-day trial, go to audibletrial.com/cocktailsandclassics, all lowercase. Again, that's audible.com/cocktailsandclassics. After your free trial is up, it costs $14.95 per month. However, There are no commitments, and if you can't decide what to listen to, that's okay. You can roll your credits over up to 1 year.
A little bit of a tradition around here is Zach takes over and gives us a trivia quiz. Zach, take it away.
I'm so proud of you guys. You guys didn't ruin any of my favorite questions. We did go through a few, but all my favorites are still here. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll jump into the first one. During the movie, Deckard has a snake scale examined underneath a microscope. What object was actually put underneath the microscope for the filming process? Was it A, Harrison Ford's fingernail, B, a marijuana bud, or C, a snake scale?
I think I'm gonna say A. Is Harrison Ford's fingernail.
I'm going to go with the meme answer and say it was a bud.
I mean, it is the 80s, so
But was it that color? I don't remember if it was that color or not. I don't know. I'm still gonna say that.
I'm gonna say a snake scale. I'm gonna go with the really meme answer and say that they actually used a snake scale.
I'm gonna say they couldn't find a snake scale, but someone on the set had some pot, and someone went, "Hey, that kind of looks like snake skin," and so they went ahead and threw it on the slide and threw it in the movie because
Hey,
they
man.
couldn't find a snake.
Hey,
your-
man, try it.
You should totally examine this shit under a microscope.
You ever
You know, it'd
seen
be
this
awesome.
in 4K?
So the logic there is that they were...
killed some androids. Funniest shit I ever seen.
Man, we're all replicants.
So the logic there is that they were blazed out of their mind, right?
Watch those wrist rockets.
It's like Titanic, where they like laced the water on set, and everyone got fucking trashed on PCP or whatever.
What?
Yes, the like final day on Titanic, some like one of the grips or something like spiked the water on set, and so that everyone was tripping on PCP, or they
No
like spiked the
way.
food or something, and everyone was tripping on PCP the whole
Holy
like last
shit.
day. Yeah. Yes, highly illegal, but
Yeah.
kind of a funny story.
Food tampering is highly illegal. Do not do it, kids. It
It's
is
more... It's frowned upon at...
illegal. No, it is
best.
illegal. I think it's a federal crime. Wouldn't do it.
Either way, I tried to give you guys 3 solid meme answers. But Ben and Cameron, you are correct. It was a marijuana
Yeah, the
bud.
bud.
I don't know the backstory, but I want to believe that Ben had the inside scoop and he gave us the deal on that one.
I want to believe it belonged to Harrison Ford.
He's not the only one that gave a deal.
All right, so we got 2 ties here. We got Ben and Cam at 1 point, and Carlos and Dylan tied at 0 points, bringing up the
Classic.
loser section.
All right.
Classic Dylan.
Oh.
Knows the
Alrighty.
most about movies, but not about trivia movie.
Does not know about trivia movie.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yep. Who's the real?
I meant
who's
what
the
I
real
said.
idiot now?
Ah, who
lean in.
dumb now?
Just lean in.
Oh,
Dumb
no.
now.
How the turntables.
Who
All right, so question number 2. The ending scene of Deckard picking up the piece of origami was not well received by the studio. So the U.S. theatrical cut of the movie instead contains some unused footage from another film that has already been covered by the Cocktails and Classics podcast. But which film? A, The Shining, B, Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, or C, Ghostbusters?
I'll say The Shining.
I'll say Indiana Jones. I feel like that makes the most sense, but
Yeah, like you want to say Indiana Jones because Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford, yeah. He'd be like, "Oh, you want this ending? I know. We shot some scenes."
Spielberg's like, yes, I can supply you with the ending that you forgot to do, Sir Ridley Scott. I'm gonna say The Shining.
My guess is it's The Shining, and it's the building blowing up, and it's from when they shot the boiler explosion for the ending of The Shining, but didn't use it.
Ben is like going fucking ham tonight. He's going deep. He is going real
Ben is
deep.
Is
The
in
details.
the memes.
What's the answer?
Carlos, Ben, and Dylan have the answer. It is The Shining.
Dang.
However, it is not that scene. It
Oh.
is the film that was used is actually from the intro, the helicopter flyover of the car driving down the road. But there's no footage in Blade Runner of the car itself. It's just a helicopter flying over the mountains.
Why the hell was that in the movie?
The studio thought it was better than the end, where it's like the twist of Deckard being a replicant. They have this nice monologue. Roy's monologue kind of fades as you just get this helicopter shot over top of the mountains.
That sounds bad.
Didn't make the final cut, so.
Right, it doesn't make
Well-
any sense.
Speaking of cuts, question number 3. How many different cuts of this movie exist? Is it A, 2, B, 4, or C, 7?
Officially or
Official cuts of the movie.
I'd like to think 4.
I'm gonna say 7. I think that there were 7 cuts of this movie.
Do you want to give us a very detailed reason why? Go
Yeah,
Ben
my
on us?
dad's uncle worked for Facebook.
Oh, yeah. 40 years before.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 4. I can think of 3 off the top of my head, and I'm thinking there's just gonna be like the I can think of the theatrical. They released a director's cut in like the 2000s or something. Then there's the final cut, and maybe there's like a television type cut where they replace some of the things so that there's no language or anything like that, if they consider that an official cut.
okay, fuck it. I'm going 4 then.
So we have a two-way tie. Actually, yeah, we have a two-way tie between Ben and Cameron. The answer was 7.
Hell yeah.
There are 7 cuts of
Nice.
this movie.
That's
and that does
ridiculous.
not include TV cuts. So like when CBS goes in and edits it for time, or when they swap out words, that doesn't count. It's actually in the editing booth between the editor and Sir Ridley Scott going back and forth, and probably listening to Harrison Ford bitch outside the door. 7 different cuts of this movie have been made. So the tie-breaking question between Ben and Cameron: Deckard's handgun was sold at an auction in 2009, but for how much?
Fuck.
Closest without going over.
All I have is $3.
Tree fitting.
Okay. I'm going to say it went for 2.48 million.
Oh my god. I was gonna say like $10,000. So I'll say $10,000.
That's a lot of money.
2 million. Wow.
This movie's popular. Sci-fi
Not that
people want it.
popular.
Okay. Cameron takes home the prize again.
It's like
You saying the
20,000.
gun didn't sell for $2.5 million.
Ben, do you have a reason for $2.48 million?
Nope.
His uncle.
Nope.
Shooting
told
from the
him.
hip.
Had no idea.
Just shooting from the
Had no idea.
Well, in 2009, so the gun actually went missing. Post-production, they lost it, quote unquote. Rumored that somebody stole it from the set. And I don't remember the man's last name, but his first name is Jeff. And Jeff resurfaced with it in 2007 after the final cut came out, and finally had it sold at an auction in 2009, where it has remained with the private investor who bought it for a price of $270,000.
Huh. That's still a lot of money.
I was wondering, I was basically between like, is it in the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands? But I went on the low end to be safe.
Just short of 2.48 million. Thanks for playing, everybody. Cameron takes home the prize.
Those of us who have seen it wrote down our ratings based off memory and nostalgia, and now I want to know if your rating has changed or not.
It's been a while since I've seen this movie. I remember watching it as a kid, and I remember not liking it at all. I didn't get it one bit. So I went into it thinking this was like a 3 or a 4, somewhere in that range. Watching the movie, I don't think it was me watching it a second time. Maybe it's just me being older. There's a lot that this movie does that I enjoy. I like the dark, rainy setting. Like I said, I'm a sucker for a painted background. I think they do that really well. I even think the story is pretty good, and the whole Deckard twist at the end, I enjoy quite a bit. The score got me, though. I'm okay with like the 80s synth score, but I think there were times, and maybe it was just this cut, where it didn't work great. It almost felt out of place. Like there's like this serene kind of synth playing over top of a scene that I thought was more inquisitive or mysterious or something. Um, it's a good action sci-fi movie. It's pretty deep. It might be a little I'm 14 and this is deep. So I'm gonna walk out of here and I'm gonna give it a 6. Good movie. You should give it a chance. It might not be for you.
It's been a while since I've seen this. I can't even think of how many years, but kind of like what Zach was saying. Like I do like the dark, like rainy noir kind of feel to this movie with the with the neon glow. Like I said, like the Pacific Rim feels, and for it just also being like an action film, and kind of just I don't know. What would I consider this a Saturday night chill movie if it's on TV? Sure, why not? Being but also being like a decent sci-fi fan, um, it was good. I mean, it just overall, it wasn't like blown away by it. Watching it again after so many years. So yeah, I'll give it a 6.
Going in, I already kind of said this, but I'm a huge fan of this movie. I gave it an 8 out of 10. Um, I mean, this is like the perfect concoction for me. We have a neo noir sci-fi film. It's moody. I love the harsh lighting. The cinematography is beautiful. Borrows from the movies that came before it, the old black and white detective films, and brings its own characteristics with the water reflections. And I think Harrison Ford is a great lead actor. Deckard is the detective who you don't really know too much about, but you kind of go along with him. I think it's kind of a deep movie. It's definitely more thought-provoking sci-fi than it is like an adventure film. It has a little horror elements at times. It's very dark and moody, and I mean, I love it. Every time I watch it, it it grows on me. So with that, I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. This is perfection. I think it's Ridley Scott's best film in my eyes.
Let it be known. This is Dylan's first 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Oh ho ho ho.
Wow. Wow.
It is, All the President's Men came close. It was 9.5.
Yeah,
but
9.5.
Yeah.
Going into this episode, I had not seen Blade Runner. I'd heard about it. Like I said, I read the book years ago. But I was kind of interested to see the movie, and I didn't really know much about it going into it other than Harrison Ford starred in it. That being said, within the first 10 minutes of the movie, I was very impressed and surprised at how much I was already enjoying it. Much like Dylan, I'm a big noir fan, so that kind of a feeling grabbed at me immediately. I liked kind of the way it balanced with the sci-fi genre. There were a couple things, like Zach said, sometimes the synth music for me didn't line up, and I don't know if it was just this cut. The interrogate. I don't want to call it interrogation. The scene where he gives the test to Rachel seems like it is supposed to fade into him asking multiple questions, but it just kind of fades out all while he asks one question. Seems kind of weird to me. I do want to say, though, the one thing that I also really enjoyed about this movie was the acting by the actors and actresses playing the replicants. Like, there's a lot of times you sometimes see an actor and they're acting kind of stiff and uncomfortable, but in this, they almost did it intentionally, and it worked. Even like Sean Young's portrayal of Rachel, where she kind of acts slightly rigid and stiff to the point where you're when they're doing the interrogation, it's kind of a is she or isn't she? But overall, I enjoyed the movie. I really liked it. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10.
Like I said at the top of this thing, I felt like I didn't personally get it. Like I didn't really quite understand the movie. I think some of the nuances of, you know, like for example, whether Deckard is a robot or not, kind of went over my head. And I'd like to, at some point again, watch it just to see if I can pick up on those details. The world building was great. The atmosphere was really good. Being able to set that tone was really nice. But as others have said, you know, at least for me personally, the pacing was very slow. It kind of dragged a little bit. The plot was kind of murky a little bit. Like I didn't feel like it was like super exciting. But maybe that's just not this type of movie, which is fine. Like I said, I don't think I got it. So I think I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. I thought it was all right. I probably would increase my rating after watching it maybe another time, especially after reading some things, like some people's opinions and thoughts on it. But I'm going to leave it at a 6.5 for me.
If you enjoyed this, don't forget to rate and subscribe. Find us on Instagram at Cocktails and Classics Pod and send us your movie and drink recommendations. Check out our sponsors, Surfside Sips or Audible. And don't forget to watch responsibly.